welcome everyone for joining us for Unite for Roe. Again, that could not be more timely with the impending decision of Dobbs for whether or not Roe will still continue to be the law of the land as it has been for the past 50 years, for my entire lifetime. And yeah, the question is it is upon us. Is this going to be, it's the biggest fight of our lives. It was the biggest fight of our previous generation, and now it's back. Now it might be back upon us. So we got a coalition of red state candidates here, and then also amongst our hosts. And we want to be talking about what each of us can be doing in order to be prepared for when that news drops. What can each of us be doing? So our call to action is first thing that we want everybody to walk away to feel that they are empowered to talk about your abortion rights. Nothing else. Walk away with feeling comfortable saying the word abortion. That is something that, some people haven't actually said the word very much. So at the very least, let's walk away feeling comfortable saying that word to talk about abortion. Then we're going to cover the state of abortion rights, literally the state of abortion rights, because it's going if Roe falls nationally, we're talking about state by state. So we want to share what is going on in your state if Roe falls. Next is to take on that responsibility of being an organizer, to organize those people that you already know. We need an army. We need an army. We need everybody stepping up. And so if you care, you are now an organizer. And then finally, we're going to talk about resources, ways that we can then get together, unite, and fight. First, right off the bat, I want to make sure that everybody feels that they have permission to go out and talk about abortion. Whatever you know right now about abortion, and especially abortion happening in your own state, the abortion rights that could be happening in your state, whatever you know right now, if it's enough for you, if it's enough to get you into this room, it will be enough to convince somebody else too. So while you might, we always, there's more to learn, and it's great to go out and get to get more information. But where you're at right now, you are enough, and you are enough to be able to go out there and talk about abortion. And then your job then, as a person who cares, once you're an empathetic person, if you care, it comes along with this responsibility to be a helper. So now your job then is to organize and to talk with the people that you know to take action with you. So you taking action is fantastic. You bringing a friend along with you is even better. All right. So again, your job to be organized and talk and be able to take that action. So that's what we're going to walk through today, is give you that, make sure that you are walking away and you know how to talk about about abortion and your abortion rights. First, I want to make sure that everyone can participate. So while not everybody is going to be able to speak, I do want to, we will have conversations also going on over in chat. So if you're new to Zoom, down at the bottom of on a computer or tablet, under reactions is actually how you can raise your hand. If you want to raise your hand, we'll take some questions at the end. Or also, there will be times coming along where you can participate. So we'll ask for raised hands, but especially that chat. Find that chat feature and make that a way that you can converse over there in the chat. If you're on a phone, down there at the bottom, it's hidden under the 3 ellipses. Under the ellipses, that's where you can raise your hand or you can chat. And we're going to do an exercise right off the front, right off the start, from the beginning to see if you can find that chat. So I want everybody to right now picture in your head, just picture in your head someone you know who you care about that you've never talked to about abortion. So picture that person in your head that you know, you care about them, but you've never said the word abortion in front of them, you've never talked about abortion, you know, chances are there's a lot of people in your lives. And then type in a chat what your relationship is with that person, or amongst our speakers, if you'd like to share relationship somehow, how you know somebody who you've never talked to about abortion. I know my list is like this long. You can tell.
I can share. I have a colleague who I've had next door to me for 7 years, and we talk about a lot of things and see each other multiple times throughout the day and share our joys and our sorrows, and we tiptoe around a lot of subjects, and this would be one of them for sure.
Yep. Tiptoe is the right word. Anybody else have somebody that they know, they care about, that they haven't spoken to?
We also had a comment of that from Jay that, you know, that cousins is a category where it really hasn't. And then Susan Gardner says her daughters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll add on to that too, as we're talking about immediate family members. So my dad, and as a matter of fact, my mom, up until a couple of months ago, I had never had that real conversation with. And my dad just passed away a week ago. And I never felt comfortable enough to share that story. And so that speaks to the stigma that we hold around just that topic. So
yeah, thanks for sharing, and I'm sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
You know, it does speak to that, you know, that even people that we love, that we care about so closely, you know, being vulnerable and opening up and talking about abortion, whether or not it's something very you know, talking about abortion in terms of something that's very personal to us, something that we've personally experienced, or you know, having compassion for other people. You know, it's just not something that we've you know, many of us have opened up to. So anybody else have anybody really close to them?
Yeah, we've had comments of that, you know, 3 out of my 6 sisters either have never had a conversation or only a brief conversation. And Melissa says her mother. So I mean, Marcia gets very, very close. I mean, the closest of the close.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's my brother.
Yeah.
He's only 14 months younger than me. And we could not be more different politically, despite growing up in the same family, despite growing up in the same place. And at this point now, I'm honestly too terrified to have the conversation with him, because I feel like I know his politics, and I feel like it's just going to be this incredibly hard conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And considering how much I have talked about it in other parts of my life and with other people, and as I'm realizing, thinking about it now, particularly the women in my life, I feel like as a millennial, I have had this conversation more and more recently with the women in my life. But not my brother, and I'm a little scared.
Yeah, well, it's that fear, right? It's that fear of having that conversation and how it will go. You know, that is what's holding us back. So while we go through, I want you to be keeping that person in mind. So your brother, your neighbor, you know, I want you to be keeping those people in mind while we go through. And right now I want you to picture just how you would feel if picture that person and picture yourself talking, bringing it up, asking them, you know, how does, you know, there's all this news going on about Roe versus Wade being rescinded. What is your thoughts on that? Imagine saying that to that person that you're talking about. How would that feel? So picture that, because when you think about, you know, when we think about abortion, it's so complex. It's just, it could be overwhelming, right? It could be just, it could be a very scary topic just because it is so complex, right? It's that convergence of being, I mean, something deeply personal, right? But then it's also, it's very different from everybody else, and it has this huge stigma over top of it, right? So there's a million reasons you could feel nervous about having to start that conversation with your brother, with your neighbor, with anybody. For me, it's even my mother. I haven't even talked to my own mother about this. We talk about everything else on the planet, but not this. Right? So to make you feel better about starting and having those conversations, don't be thinking about all of this stuff that you see on the screen. Don't be thinking about how big and how complex and how scary it is. Think about talking to that person that you know about you, about yourself. You're going to talk about yourself. And we talk about ourselves all the time. And also be thinking about talking to that person about themselves, right? So we like to talk about ourselves. It makes us feel good. Right? When we're talking to our friends, we like to ask them how they're doing because that's going to make them feel good, right? So we like to talk about ourselves, and that's what we're going to say. We're going to keep that conversation, at least to start off that conversation in this nice, easy conversational way where we're going to be talking about you and that person you know. All right, next thing is when you start that conversation to start it in a way that that person that you're talking to is going to feel alongside you, or they'll nod along with you. Start off that conversation. When you think about abortion, when you think about might come out of the Supreme Court, and when you think of the words Dobbs decision, right? When you think about whatever's happening in your state legislature, even right now, around abortion and abortion rights, how do you feel? So say it. How do you feel? I feel blank. So either type in chat, how does that make you feel? How do you feel right now? Or for our speakers, if you would like to share, what are you feeling? What's that emotion you're feeling right now?
I'm scared.
Scared? Yeah.
Nervous for my daughter.
Mm-hmm. Nervous. Mm-hmm. Somebody else?
And pissed.
Yeah, that's me. I feel like the Hulk. I'm angry all the time.
There's a lot of people talking about they're scared and they're angry. So it's really, I mean, there are other things being said, but you can see people going kind of back and forth between scared and angry and what about the future?
Yeah. So now imagine that person that you were talking about before, and now imagine going up to them and saying them, you know what, right now I'm really scared. Right? How do you think that would feel? Right? That'd probably feel okay. You can probably do that. I can definitely go up to my mom and say, oh my gosh, all this stuff in the news, it's really scaring me, or it's making me really mad. You know, that's an easier way to talk and open it up. And chances are that person, you know, they're going to be nodding along with you. It's like, yeah, me too. Right. Same, you know, so get that head nod along right at the beginning of that conversation. And then next is to follow that up with your core values. So I feel scared because what that, name a core value and say it out loud is important to me. So I can say, I feel angry because freedom is important to me. Freedom is really important to me. If I walk in anywhere and I say to anyone, I start a conversation saying, I feel angry because freedom is important to me, I'm going to be having a lot of heads on, right? A lot of people are going to be like, yep, me too. They don't even know what I'm going to talk about, but we have a connection right there off the bat. So again, think of that person and think about starting the conversation that way. And a lot of people wonder, what are those core values? Like I mentioned, freedom. What are those core values? So we want to talk about your core values. That means not the issue, not the high level issue. Like, the issue would be a woman's right to decide about her health care. I hope that's important to you. Right? But that's not what we're talking about. Or policy. You can say, oh, I wish the Senate would codify Roe. Right? That's not going to get as many heads nodding along. What you want to get right off the bat is you want to be talking about why that matters to you. Why does that policy matter to you? Why does that issue matter to you? Dig down, really dig down and find that why in your gut and put words to that. So maybe it's freedom, maybe it's compassion, maybe it's, that sense of liberty. And there's a million words out there that are these values that are in your gut that you can speak to. And when you do, people are going to nod along. They're going to nod along. So if you start off saying, I'm angry because belonging is important to me, you're going to get people nodding along. I'm angry because patriotism is important to me, people are being nodding along. So just by starting off that conversation first with your feelings, and then with that core value, it's an easier way to start in on that conversation. And then next is then to share that personal story. So how does abortion and abortion rights, how does that sit in your life, right? How does that affect you in your life, in your personal life, right? It could be you in your body. It could be you in, it could be somebody that you love. How does that sit in your life? So if you can share that personal, share a personal story. I'm going to stop sharing for a second, and I'm going to ask if anybody is willing then to share a personal story of how does abortion rights affect you personally. Anybody want to share?
We did have a comment from Jill that she was scared and sad because she can remember when so many women died when abortion was not available.
Exactly. Yeah. Like I said, it doesn't have to be exactly, personal to you. You don't have to get that vulnerable. Like one personal story that that I share is I had my mentor in life. She was like a second mother to me. She had scars on her arms. And one day I asked her what those scars were. And she was an activist, a very prominent lesbian activist in San Francisco back in the 60s, back in the Castro days. And so I asked her what the scars were. And she said, well, before Roe, what she would do is that they would volunteer to go to abortion clinics, and they would line the streets, like the walkway up into the abortion clinic, and they would the volunteers would link arms. They'd link arms and form this wall. And one day they were forming this wall because there were protesters on the other side. They were forming this wall, and a man came down the chain of people with a knife and stabbed their arms all the way down. That for her, when she hears abortion and fighting for your abortion rights, that's what she thinks of. She thinks of needing to literally physically hold arms against the protesters, and then I'm of a different generation. I had this luxury. I never experienced any of that. I had the freedom. So that for me is a personal story, somebody that I know, and then understanding then what it will take if it needs to. If we need to, and I don't want to go back to that. I don't want to go back to that time, so she went through that, so I didn't have to, so I don't want to have to do it. Anybody else want to share?
I will share my.
Go ahead, Natalie.
Oh, sorry about that. So when I was in middle school, beginning of high school, I was raised in a very conservative religious household, and I would make posters of dismembered fetuses, and I would protest at abortion clinics, and I would scream at other kids on my school bus about abortion, and I was 13 years old and probably had no idea what I was really talking about. I was regurgitating fundamentalist ideals and propaganda that had been shoved down my throat by an organization. And one day I realized that I was harming myself and my relationships. I was angsty and angry all of the time. And I was hurting friendships and hurting real life people who were sitting right in front of me, on behalf of these hypothetical future potential people, maybe. And I was also a big part of, a really lush purity culture. And so I feel sad because I value humanization of women. And I live in a state where on the House floor, representatives say that women should not come out of the household and that women should not enter specific fields of study. And I was raised to believe that. And a lot of places in this state believe that we are not supposed to like or enjoy sex. We are supposed to abstain from sex. And when we have it, we are to birth babies, and that is all. And that makes me absolutely heartbroken. And it makes me heartbroken that I participated in that.
So you have a different set of empathy in that you've been in the shoes of on the protesting side. So you must have some more empathy on that side. But I thank you for seeing the humanity in women, that equal humanity in women.
Let's see. It looks like maybe Rita might have something. Has her hand raised.
Yes, I just wanted to share kind of a personal story. I've heard some of you say that you were young enough that you have never known when Roe wasn't available to women. I got pregnant at 17 in 1970 and lived in Oklahoma, and abortion was illegal at that time. I was very fortunate in that I had a wonderful, wonderful family. Both of us did. The young man and I, we later married, blah, blah, blah. I had twin daughters and they're wonderful. But as a mother, as a grandmother and a great grandmother, I'm very concerned. Now, I'm pro-choice is what I am. I am pro-choice. I personally do not know that I could ever personally have an abortion. And I was very fortunate in that that was not something I was faced with my circumstances in our families. But I do not understand the arrogance of others to assume that someone else has the same opportunities and support system that we had. We need to, I think we need to really push the support side of this, because it's a huge issue, I think. But and not only that, but in 2020, I had a 14-year-old granddaughter who was raped. Fortunately, she did not become pregnant. But again, I live in the state of Oklahoma, which I don't think they believe women have any rights, to be quite honest. And to date, that minor's rape kit where they did find DNA has still not been processed, even though we have 2 men that they've gotten DNA from. They found DNA in her kit, but they haven't even processed the suspects that they've received. And now you tell me that if she had become pregnant in the state of Oklahoma, so what? She has to have this child. And not only that, but where is if we are being subjected to vigilante justice to where you can earn $10,000 by turning someone in, where's the flip side of that? Where's the responsibility to the male donor? Are they going to be required to give DNA if you suspect that they're the father? Are they going to be held responsible in any way, shape, or form? Or is it just the woman or a young girl's life who has to be completely given up for one that was forced on her? I'm sorry, but that's That's my opinion.
Yeah, it's hard to look at these laws and the inequality in these laws and not just realize that it's just about harming women. That's that's at the basis. They just, not seeing women as whole humans, and then yeah, wanting to control and maintain control over women. That's so. But thank you so much for sharing that. Rita. I also see some other great stories being shared in chat if anybody wants to unmute and share, or any of our speakers if they would like to share as well.
Yeah, so this is Sheena. I'll share. And I apologize, my phone might die. So I am actually here at the Federal Reserve Bank attending a Juneteenth celebration. And so that word freedom resonated so much when you said that, because truly that's what it's about. It is about freedom. It's about freedom for women to be able to make choices and decisions that they have the right to be able to make and should be able to make. And it's sad. It's ridiculous how they're not even coding the language anymore. They are flat out just being unempathetic, uncaring, and truly just dehumanizing women. And we have to realize and recognize as women, we are the supermajority and we need to walk into our power. We need to take back the power that they are trying to take away from us. And so I love what you mentioned about organizing. That is something that we've not done because we haven't been able to have a real honest conversation about this. So when you talk about stories, my story is exactly what the young lady just mentioned before. I was not in a position financially, educationally, support-wise to be able to have a baby. And I made the decision to have an abortion. It was a deeply personal decision, deeply complex decision. But I made that choice. And I think that every person who is able to have that choice can make that choice. Period. There's no reason why someone else, and especially not the government, being able to dictate that choice for another human being who is free in the United States of America.
That's right. That's right, Sheena. Spot on. So thank you so much for sharing that and being vulnerable in sharing that. I see also some very vulnerable stories being shared in chat. So if anybody's comfortable in speaking them aloud, otherwise I recommend going over there and reading those in chat. And I see Jill, you have your hand raised. Let's get you.
Can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead, Jill.
Oh, okay. I wanted to share because I think that there are so many issues that people don't even think about. When I was pregnant, we found out that the baby had a very serious heart defect. We didn't know whether the baby would survive because of the heart defect. I had some medical issues, and so we weren't sure how well I would do with the pregnancy if there were problems. And being from, fortunately, a blue state, now I'm in Massachusetts, but I was in Connecticut. Doctor said to me, you have to think about it because it's your choice. And you have the choice because either way you go, it will be extremely difficult. And one of the things that really bothers me is that I don't see any men volunteering to carry a child. Nor do I see them being willing to take care of a child that nobody wants.
Yeah, it's definitely
And
falls on women, right?
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
who's going to take care of it? The baby's mother, of course.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
what
Again,
if the
it's
baby's
that
mother can't?
inequality, right? That inequality of, I mean, even culturally inequality of, you know, the burdens, cultural burdens placed on women. But then also that's highlighted then in those, in the laws. So yeah, I mean, we're really hitting at that, you know, digging down past to what's really at the core of the issue is it's an attack and it's a front on women, and it is a way for men to retain their power over women. And Melissa, I see you're also have your hand raised.
Yeah, I was actually in college and I was raped while I was doing an overseas study. And I can't even imagine if I had gotten pregnant, you know, being in a foreign country. And also just, and I fortunately did not get pregnant, but if I would have been forced, like on what we're looking at, to carry that rapist baby for 9 months, I mean, I'm a pretty, excuse my French, damn strong woman, but that would have probably tested the boundaries of my strength. And I don't know if I would have mentally made it through that 9 months, because it would be a constant reminder every day.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing, Melissa. And yeah,
Sure.
so one, I'm sorry that happened to you, and I'm glad you are a damn strong woman. but yeah, speaks that for me speaks to, you know, that when we are sharing their personal stories, you see that how, you know, diverse and wide and unique and all these different ways, you know, that abortion intersects into our lives. It's you know, so if you're thinking it's just, you know, if people are thinking it's just one way, by sharing these stories, you're opening up people's eyes to all these different ways that abortion, you know, walks into our lives. So again, everyone, thank you for sharing. We're going to move on to talking about what is happening in our states if and I'm going to continue to say if Dobbs the decision comes in and Roe is rescinded. What is going to happen in our states? Particularly, I'm going to be speaking about red states because, like I said, our speakers are running for office in traditionally red states, and I'm in Terry and I are in Indiana, and Melissa is in Ohio. And when I say red states, do know that I don't believe anything is a permanently red state. I'm in Indiana. I say all the time, Indiana is not red, it is gerrymandered. So you probably feel the same way about some of your states as well. So a currently red state, and we want to talk about what is happening currently in those states. So it's just a very high level. We're going to start off going through just at a very high level what is the like kind of the pulse of how across all of America people are feeling about abortion. So a new poll came out. So Pew Research put out a new poll just this past May with some new numbers on where you know, kind of seeing where are people at. And you can see here that that it's been incredibly consistent since 1995. Those people that think that abortion should be legal in either all cases or most cases, and also staying consistent then is that percentage that think that it should be illegal in all cases or most cases. So you're not really seeing, you know, you're seeing that 61%, still a large majority of Americans consistently believe that that abortion should be legal in all or most cases. But we can get a little bit more granular on that. So Pew Research does fantastic polling, and we can get a little bit more granular on that. And we can see that within those people that were saying that they want it to be illegal, they still want it legal in some cases. So even though they're saying illegal, there are some cases where, so 71% of people believe that it should either be legal in some cases or illegal in some cases, meaning there should be some exceptions, right? So 19% of people think it should be legal, no exceptions you can have on abortion, but then 71% think it should either be legal or illegal with exceptions for most some cases, meaning that only 8% of Americans think that it should be illegal with no exceptions. But look what's happening in our state houses, right? I'm in Indiana. What they want to push through in Indiana is that 8%. They want to shove that 8% extreme minority. You're not even talking about that 37% minority. You're talking about they want to push that extreme 8% minority onto everyone. Whereas you see 90% of people, so 90% of people actually want it to at least have exceptions. But yeah, they're pushing for it in a lot of our state houses, that extreme position. And who is that 8%, right? How is this happening? How is this 8% able to sway in Indiana? We have what's called a supermajority in the House and Senate, meaning that they don't even need Democrats to show up to have quorum. so yeah, how do we get this supermajority who believes this small, tiny 8% or wants to pass laws that align with this small, tiny 8%? Well, that 8% of people, they talk about abortion. Heck, they probably talk about abortion every single day. They're out there talking about it. They are organized. They are united. They get out, they vote. That is a solid voting block. We call them the single issue voters. Those single issue pro-life voters are a solid voting block. They get out there, they lobby. Lord knows they lobby our state houses. And they also donate. They donate because they generate enough funds out of just that 8% of people. So I like to say, it's just like cold hard facts. They just want it more than you. They're obsessed. They are fanatical. They are going to want it more than you. But then what do we have? What is that 90% of us have, right? 90% of us, we have something they'll never have. We have an army. We have an army of people that are currently largely sitting on the sidelines. So if we could get that army to talk about abortion, we can get them to organize, we can get them to be united, we can get them out there, especially to vote and to lobby and to donate, then we will easily overpower the 8%. So that's what we're here. That's what we need. Each of us needs to be doing. So what's going on? I'm going to stop share. So what is currently going on? If our candidates want to share what is currently going on in each of your states, and what would the repercussions be in your state if Roe fell?
Well, I'll go, since Oklahoma seems to have been the one in the news the most recently. Oklahoma is working hard to be what they consider the most pro-life state in the union. And this year passed a set of combined bills that would amplify the trigger law that they already had in place to ban abortion. We tend to take a lot of inspiration from Texas, and on this, it was no exception. They added a bounty, $10,000 bounty, to hunt down anyone who aids and abets, and it will be a felony for any physician or medical provider to perform an abortion. And this is a ban from the point of fertilization and then further down in the bill try to wind themselves into pretzels to exclude IUDs and Plan B, which is part of why this bill has ended up in court.
That is
And it is crazy, and it has already had its intended effect. And on May 1st, there were 4 abortion clinics operating in the state of Oklahoma. And today they are currently engaging in no appointment making, no procedures. They are done. They are finished. And they don't know if they will be opening their doors. And so right now, the only option for Oklahomans who have the privilege and the means to travel is to go outside the state.
Mhm.
And what we have been focused on here in our discussions about organizing is how to support the people in Oklahoma who don't have that privilege and don't have that luxury. Because it's not just about funding the cost of the procedure wherever it is, it's getting them there, and it's doing it in a way that is safe and doesn't cause disproportionate backlash on the people who are here to help.
Yeah. Are they going to Colorado, or what's the neighboring state?
Colorado is right now the closest, and there has been, some discussion. The one thing that Oklahoma does have going for it is a lot of tribal land with tribal sovereignty, and there has been a discussion now about what overlap in that Venn diagram the tribes will play in terms of helping to provide services. That is still an ever-changing landscape, as it always is. But Colorado right now, with what they have done this year, they have become the point where people are looking of how do we get people there for the services they need.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Kate. Thanks for the update on Oklahoma. Anybody else want to share on their state?
I could speak about Missouri for just a minute. I live in Northwest Missouri. I'm about 5 hours from St. Louis. That means that anyone in my district has a 5-hour drive to the one and only abortion provider in the entire state, and that is Planned Parenthood. In 2020, St. Louis Planned Parenthood did 39 surgical abortions in the entire state, because that is how much they have cracked down on abortions in our state. Most people go over to Illinois. There's a new big clinic in Illinois, and most will go over there. We also have laws like you have to have an invasive ultrasound, a vaginal ultrasound. You have a wait period. You have all these things that have made it to where women in this state cannot access an abortion. And this is a really important issue to rural Missouri, because we didn't have access in the beginning. So Roe falling for us feels like it's always felt. We have zero access to abortion, but we do have a whole lot of fake pregnancy clinics around here, preying on young girls, giving them diapers and ultrasounds and whatever. Sometimes adopting babies out. I mean, seriously, someone needs to look into that. That's a thing. But people in my area go to Des Moines, they go to Omaha to seek abortions. But when Roe falls, Iowa will also have a trigger law. So people in my area will not be able to travel to Iowa. They won't be able to travel to Oklahoma. They won't be able to travel to Kansas. And so it's just making it more difficult. Missouri is also passing laws about, reimplanting ectopic pregnancies, or denying women care in ectopic pregnancies. We had a lawmaker from Branson who said, even in the event of an ectopic pregnancy, there should be no abortion. And a Democratic representative said, do you know the treatment for that sort of pregnancy? And he said, no, but he doesn't care. And that's what everybody needs to understand. These folks do not care if they kill women. They just don't care. They pass laws saying that our children are too young to learn history, but they're old enough to have babies. None of it makes any sense. They're not pro-life, they're pro-birth. They don't give two shits about anybody in this state. They defund our education, they defund our rural hospitals, or they close them. They make sure that people don't have a living wage. They make sure that we don't have health insurance, and then they force babies onto these vulnerable people. And so I'm obviously very animated and upset about this. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of what they're doing. I'm just tired of the control of women, and that when it comes down to it, that's all it is about. It's being able to have control of women. And I mean, they're passing laws where if we can't even flee the state, that there, of course, like Oklahoma and Texas, there are bounties on people. but also that we can't leave the state. So talk about a dystopian future. How do you keep women from leaving the state? I mean, I don't even know how any of this is supposed to happen, but at any rate, we're, you know, fourth in the nation for gun violence. Everybody and their dog has a gun, and everything is just a mess. And abortion is just on top of this. And I want to say to people who are listening, by Roe falling, that's going to start unraveling things that you didn't mean to unravel. Because having an abortion is about privacy. It's about the fact that I can make a decision with my doctor. So if you don't have privacy with your own body, do you think you're going to have privacy for your gun? Do you think that you're going to have privacy for your marriage? Do you think you're going to have privacy in education? All of these things are unraveling. So no matter what, Roe is a huge issue, but it's just the tip of the iceberg for what they want. And to go back to talk about that 8%, it's unfortunate, but this is very true. What a populace wants doesn't really have any impact on lawmakers, especially Congress people. We can all want something. 100% of the population can want something, and that means about 30% of the time they'll do it. They don't care what we want because we don't have the money. So what you were saying earlier, organization is the only thing folks like us have. In my little town, I got fed up and I was like, I'm going to have a rally if you believe in abortion. And this is, you know, a town that word is never uttered. I had 75 people show up to the courthouse because that's how mad people are. So every single one of us need to take a moment and realize that you have the moment right now. It's in your hands. Do something with it. Organize everybody you know.
Exactly. Thank you, Jess. You said it better than
Preach, Jess.
I ever could. Thank you.
I love.
I don't know about you all, but I'm seeing
hearing
the
that passion.
momentum. I see it at the doors. I see it when people call me and tell me that they lost 2 friends before Roe and they're not going to lose any of those granddaughters today. Yeah. I'm hearing it. I'm hearing it when I go and I talk to the disability community and they grab my hands and they say, will you talk about our issues, about the fact that we've already lost agency at the hands of society, at the hands of the government, and sometimes at the hands of our families. We already deal with a healthcare system that's not set up for our needs, Medicaid that's not covering our services, providers that don't understand the particulars of disabilities. And now you're telling us that we have to have babies when something happens to us.
Yeah.
We also know what you do after we have those babies and sometimes how hard we try to keep them in the face of our disabilities. And it's all coming together. These are people who are reaching out to me to say, when is the next rally? What is happening next? Where am I going to go to find the information? Because I'm not going to let this happen to the next generation.
That's right. Yep. And that's why we're here today. We're sharing these stories. We're sharing, getting you comfortable and being able to talk about abortion, right? That's number one. You got to be able to get out there and talk. I mean, if I can't talk to my own mother about this, how am I going to get 75 people to show up, you know, at a rally, right? We need to be able to start with the people right around us to have those conversations. And then, at the end, we're going to have those resources. So, you know, when we need to act, we're ready, we're organized, you know, where to go. That day that, you know, if that day comes that Roe is rescinded, you have a plan of action that day. You know what you're going to do on that very day. All right, we're going to.
Cass, can I add on just a little bit, just a little bit, teeny bit. I was just going to say, so we need to also flip the script on this as well. So we talk about that single issue. This needs to be the issue. We need to get people off the sidelines into the polling places to vote on this issue. We need to stop trying to make Democrats into this, you have to check all the boxes. And that's the only way I'm going to vote for you. No, we have to make this the issue. We have to be just as passionate about this, just like Jess, right? Fired up, ready to burn it down if they don't get out and vote about this issue. This is the tip. Once this goes, there's no limits. There's no limits. And they tried it in Texas, and you guys know my governor right now. He's horrible. And so everyone tries to out crazy him. And that's where they are. So this is that moment. And it just happens to be an election year. So wow, organize and vote. That's it.
Yes, thank you, Sheena. Yes.
Well,
And Melissa, you put into the chat that domino, right? The domino effect. Would you want to share that and speak to the repercussions beyond? I mean, as huge and momentous they are for women to lose control. What are the other things that could be coming along? Why is this really the fight of our lifetime right now?
Yeah, I mean, basically a lot of things are based on the 14th Amendment, and which is basically privacy. So you start looking at, Judge Alito basically said, or Justice Alito basically said, oh, don't fear. This is just about abortion. It's not about anything else. I call bullshit on that, because it's the first thing, because the rest of his party has already said that the next thing they're going after is gay marriage. So the other items that are basically on that same precedent of the 14th Amendment are marriage equality, interracial marriage, contraception. And just think about for a second, if we didn't have, if they're kicking all of that back to the states, that's what they say they're going to do. Well, that's crazy, because we already know what the states are going to do. And like in Ohio, for example, the voters 2 cycles ago put marijuana on the ballot and voted that we wanted it to be available. And the legislature still hasn't done anything about it. So why would we think that, I mean, it's something simple as marijuana, like why would we ever think that they would give us the ability to decide on anything else? And the hypocrisy of the interracial marriage, just think about that for a second. Oh, Justice Thomas just happens to be in an interracial marriage of 30 plus years. So yeah.
Anyway. Yeah. So yeah, a lot of dominoes could fall if Dobbs is decided, based on the 14th Amendment. If you want more information and get a deep dive into that, into the judicial system and that 14th Amendment. So tomorrow we are doing Civics for Everyone. So Terry hosts that. Terry is a lawyer who knows this stuff backwards and forwards, and she makes it very digestible. We call it Civics for Everyone, literally for everyone. So breaks it down and then talks specifically about the judicial system. Terry, do you want to speak real quickly about that course that we're doing tomorrow?
Sure. It'll be at 8 o'clock Eastern, and we are going to talk about the Constitution, elections, state government, but we'll have a special section on the constitutional principles that Melissa was just talking about, what the 14th Amendment means to us in terms of personal liberty. But interestingly, the Second Amendment, our arguments also relate back to the 14th Amendment. So there'll be a section on that as well. And you can sign up for that from the Building Bridges for America website.
Yep, I'm going to share that link later on. The next thing I want us to share, so I'll just share the screen just so you can see the question. We're talking about, okay, what do we do? So we've been talking about how to have those conversations. We're going to continue on in a minute here to talk about, fully having those conversations, really rounding them out, how to start those conversations and how to be organized, right? We're going to talk about that organized piece. But for anybody who wants to share those resources that you have found from either grassroots groups that are out there, maybe other campaigns, for what they're doing already, getting started to prepare for that post-Roe world. We've put together a guide with some of those, so we'll share that with you. But this is a great time if you have any note of any resources. If you could share those with us. So particularly in your state, if there is a particular resource, like I said, if You know, we hear tomorrow that Dobbs is rescinded. Where do people go? What resource would you send someone in your state to?
Kaz, if I can talk a little bit about Idaho and what's been going on, I'm really feeling very fortunate because we have very supportive neighboring states who have come forward publicly, and our regional Planned Parenthoods are organizing and fundraising for mutual aid funds so that Idahoans can go up to Oregon or Washington and receive the necessary care. And Idaho does have all of the same trigger laws in place. We were the second after Texas to put the bounty bill on the floor and pass it. And we also, I just want to speak to the messaging a little bit as well. Idaho passed a Day of Tears bill. So the flag will be being lowered on the anniversary of Roe every year in honor of the babies that have been murdered in this state. So they're really appealing to the emotion and the nationalism and the religious rhetoric. And I think it's really important as we organize to recognize the severity and the deeply rooted conditioning that's involved here. I've heard some people in their conversations about abortion make statements like, why are we regulating women? They can only have one baby in a year, and a man could impregnate 100 women. In this state, they would be proud of that man. In this state, we have child brides. In this state, we have polygamy. This state envisions a world where men have millions of barefooted wives birthing their many babies and doing nothing other than that. So our messaging has to be clear about the values that are not shared. They don't share a value in wanting there to be fewer pregnancies. They want all the pregnancies. They want all the babies. They want all the women being wives and mothers all the time. And they want to lower flags for fetuses, not for women who've died from terrible unsafe abortions or unsafe pregnancies or victims of rape. And also some of our trigger laws, of course, are we passed the fetal heartbeat bill already and the bounty bill now. Abortion will go away entirely if Roe falls, and including instances of incest and rape in this state. And so it's really tragic, and we need to understand that, like my story earlier, that it comes from a place of conditioning. These are not real values. These are not things that any human can honestly look within themselves and value. They've been conditioned to believe these things, and they're not seeing the truth and reality of what we're talking about. And so I'm really grateful that we have some resources with our local and regional Planned Parenthood so that women can receive care. And I think that as we're organizing, we need to get very clear about talking about the humanity of it, telling these stories, speaking about women as humans and not baby factories, because that's what we're up against here.
Yeah. Thanks for that perspective, of where that other side is coming from. Again, you have a lot of empathy. You've been in those shoes. So thank you for enlightening, some of us as well, that, people come from different, moral settings, and, you can't bring your morals to somebody else, right? You need to, that's why when we were speaking about how to start those conversations, we talk about feelings, because we all have feelings, right? And then digging down past, to what those core values are underneath, because there's a greater chance that somebody's going to share that with you. Like I said, if you're talking about in terms of freedom, of compassion is a good one. So when you're starting off the conversation from that, you got a better chance that person is going to be able to listen to you. And then when you tell that personal story, when you humanize it, particularly, that's why we want you to talk about a personal story, because talking about someone that you, either yourself or someone that You know, everyone has empathy for themselves or somebody that they know. They might not have empathy for strangers, but they would for somebody that they know. So by telling that personal story, it engages them. They're going to listen. And they start to see this, see it not as an issue like what you hear on, like, you know, I'm sure many of you have listened to conservative talk radio, you know, driving through your state, and you flip it over to those radio stations, and they're all saying the same things. They say, all Democrats want abortions up until the moment of birth, right? They'll tell stories about, you know, babies being ripped out of the womb. They've been telling those stories forever. But if you can actually talk about the, you know, the human, the real stories, the real issues, you know, engage their emotions that way. So like I mentioned, we have that list of resources out there is kind of like a start. You know, if at the very least, you know, if you're looking for a place to start, we have that list of resources for you. But if we have any others, if you have other links, of other places that you would like people to, organizations, places that people can go in that moment, you know, when they need to step up and take action, you know, where can they go? That would be great to be able to share those, because, oh, go ahead.
I also just had one really quick resource that was also gives me hope here in Idaho. We've had several local businesses and companies start adding abortion care to the healthcare that they will provide, including transportation and lodging for their employees.
Wow.
Chobani Yogurt is an Idaho company, and they came out and said they'll be providing that across the board for all of their employees, male and female. And so if a man needs, you know, to take, so that's another resource that folks might not think of, but asking your employer, if you or someone you know are in that situation, if it's something that they can find a way to also provide support and help.
Yeah, that's great. And also, you know, when we're talking about, you know, who to talk to about this, you know, your coworkers, your boss, all, you know, those people, those decision makers that are right around you, they are also ones that, you know, engage with them as well. So again, that most important way, the most important thing that you can do to help is to take on that responsibility of talking with those people that you know, and then inviting them with you. We need that army. How are we going to recruit that army? You know, if we could, if just a really great meme could get that army off of the sidelines, it would have happened already. Right? It's not the way that people work. People will are more likely or most likely to take action if they're personally asked by someone they know. So if they're personally asked, then that is who is when somebody is going to be able to take action. Also, I mean, think of yourself. How would you feel if, you know, if there was a rally going on scheduled to come, you know, the next day in your town, and your friend, your mom, somebody who you've never talked to about abortion comes to you and invites you to go with, right? Imagine how powerful that would be. Well, you can be that for that other person. You can have that powerful, moment with them. All right, we got a couple of hands raised. Let's go to those before we go on. So let's hear from Lori.
Hi, yeah, so I think this is great, asking people to take personal responsibility and recruit people. But I think, as Jess said, you know, as much as the people want, that doesn't mean the politicians are going to do it. So I think part of that inviting people to join means we need to invite people to join in voting for politicians who are pro-choice. And I think it would be very helpful if political organizations like Building Bridges and progressive PACs would clearly state the stance of the people that they're endorsing. So I think all the politicians that get endorsed should say, I'm either for abortion or I'm not. Melissa and I have experience with politicians who don't state that they're anti-abortion to promote their own means. And I think it's very important for the organizations, political organizations, to press the politicians to state their views.
Yeah, that's important. I mean, when we're talking about wanting people to talk about abortion, it should start from the top, right? Should start from our representatives. Should be vocal out there and not afraid to talk about abortion themselves. So that's great. And yeah, as building bridges, we should be more vocal about it. I mean, we would not endorse somebody who was not an ardent pro-choice candidate. But speak that, because the part of the problem of not speaking about abortion is we just leave everything to be assumed. Leave everything, and we should not. We should be saying this stuff aloud. And Jill, real quick, we got 15 minutes left. So if you, Jill, real quick, and then you're the last hand. So go ahead, Jill.
Okay, I just wanted really quickly to say that I think that going on what Melissa said about Chobani and about what Lynn said about voting, the other people that are hidden within the 80% are the corporations in this country.
Mhm.
Businesses have a huge impact. And I think that it's really important for women to look at what the views are of the companies they buy from,
Yeah.
and start to say the same as you're going to say to your representative, I'm not going to vote for you. I'm not going to buy your things. And I'm going to make sure that other people don't buy them.
Yeah, there's more ways that we can, that's a great point, Jill. There's more ways that that we can express our power. I mean, definitely voting, that is the biggest one. But also, yeah, that purchasing power, that is one way. Also on social media, don't give anybody a like or a retweet or something like that if it's somebody that you don't want, right? So just make a commitment to yourself. If they are not ardently pro-choice, I'm not going to tweet them. I'm not going to comment on them. I'm not going to amplify them. So there's ways like that as well, that we have that power within us, and being intentional and really organized, right? Getting those good habits down is really important. All right, so like I said, it's talking about talking to those people and inviting them to join you, because like I said, we need an army. So it's great if you vote, but if someone doesn't care about politics and maybe they don't vote, they're not using their own political power, and by you not talking to them, you're not using your full political power. You can go double your vote by talking to them, but if you're not doing as much as you can do. So by inviting those people to join you, either to join you to vote, join you to donate, join you to volunteer, join you to show up at a rally to support candidates, just be aware and be an active person out there advocating for abortion. Invite those people to come along with you. So I want you to recall from earlier that person that you were thinking of before that you've never talked to about abortion. Think about that person again, and I want you to picture yourself literally writing them onto a list of people that that you are going to go out and you are going to organize. So you have like I said, take on that personal responsibility of bringing those people off of the sideline. Bring them off of the sideline. And to do that, to organize your network, the first word there is organize. Be organized in going through and systematically going through everybody that you know and making sure that you make a plan. Be intentional to talk to them about abortion, about Roe, about what's going to happen in your state. What are the other implications? Humanize it, right? So be intentional in going out and having those conversations with everybody that you know. Track those people, see how they respond, and this is that gold that you then bring to a campaign or to a cause. If you can bring to a campaign and say, bring it to a pro-choice candidate and say, I can deliver you 40 votes. Right? I've talked to these 40 people there. I've gotten 40 votes for you. You have political power. Also, you have given it to that person who might not have voted. Now they are voting. Now they have political power, right? So it's exponential, but be organized. And this is something you can do right now. You're not waiting for a walk list. You're not waiting for any data from anybody else. This is your own self-generated data. And like I said, this is gold. I'm sure that our candidates will say that if they had a person walk in with a list of contact names saying they have committed to vote for you, what a difference that would make for their campaign, especially in local races where 40 votes can make a really big difference, right? So yeah, you want to be making this list, be intentional about going out, and this will push you into starting those conversations with people. And again, tracking how people are, see where they're at. And then that final piece is really important, is to make a plan to reach out to people again. This isn't something that is a one conversation, one and done thing. These are people that you don't just have 15 seconds on a phone with them, right? This is somebody that so bring it up again and again, because politics is just a natural, normal part of our lives. And also abortion, that is a natural, normal part of our lives. So this should be something that we talk about more often. So bring it up, one time, and then change, after you hear from them, you hear where they're at, and then you share your personal story, then change the subject back to something else that you already have in common, because you're going to come back and you're going to bring it up again. You're going to make it a natural, normal thing. So that is, again, being very organized and intentional about going through and talking with everyone so they join you. So we get that army off of the sidelines. How to start the conversation is kind of the biggest question. A lot of people have is, I've been, you've done the homework, your personal story and what you're going to say, but now, you're in front of, your neighbor or your brother, you're in front of them, and you need to actually, you've made that commitment to talk about abortion. Now, how do you actually start that conversation? The best way to do it is to ask them where they're at, and then just really listen. Just do that active listening to really hear where they're at. So you can say, a real gentle way into talking about it is, there's a lot of big stuff in the news right now about Roe versus Wade. Does any of it hit home for you? And just see where people are at. Or you can say, keep it personal. Say, hey, I went to this Unite for Roe talk the other day. What are your thoughts about that? What are your thoughts about abortion? Right? And just see where people are at, and then really listen and hear where they're at. As Natalie was talking about, you might be coming from two completely different, worlds, really, when you're thinking about that. Listen, really understand where they're coming from. There's so much value in just understanding them. And then also, if they feel heard, if they feel listened to, they're much more likely to then listen to you when you share as well. So be open to those other perspectives that where people might be coming from, and then share yours, and hopefully you can get through. So let's talk about having. We only got a few minutes left, but let's talk about when we're having those conversations and trying to get people to take action along with us. What are some good conversations that you have had, examples of ones that you can share to encourage people to go out and have these same conversations themselves? Anybody want to share on that?
I can share. My mom went door knocking with me once, and she now cries every time she tells this story of this really conservative woman that didn't want to talk to me very much. And I said, it just feels like everything's really divisive right now. And I put it in the chat already, but I just said, don't you think that's unfair? It's not fair that you and I shouldn't be allowed to talk about what they're talking about on the floor. So I'm going to say it. Let's talk about abortion. I want to hear what you think and what you have to say, because nothing should be off limits for you to get to talk about, or scary or divisive, that they're talking about down there on the Capitol floor. And the woman really softened and opened up, and she shared her perspective, and I met her with a relatively moderate response because that's what she needed to hear. But I was able to have a conversation with her about abortion, which I immediately pivoted into a conversation about affordable childcare and healthcare and livable wages. And, and it was a great conversation. And I said the big bad A word to, and I think that's a really great way to just get people realizing you've been made to be afraid of this and you don't have to be.
Yeah, that's great. It's like those conversations, on even on doors, right? It's just like where, you're almost cold, hitting someone cold, right? They're not really expecting it, but you can have those really meaningful conversations in that instance. So yeah, volunteering, getting out there and volunteering and not being afraid, like you were not afraid. But the thing is, you found that connection. So when we were talking about at the very beginning, finding that core value, that thing that really, gets you deep down in your gut, was that sense that it's unfair. Well, that person was nodding along, right? You got them, you hook them in. So those are the hooks. So we talking about your personal feelings, and then talking about something like that, where, what's really driving you underneath, speaking it, saying it out loud, don't letting it go assumed. That is what's going to create that connection that might be able to open up for that person to share, and then you being able to share as well. Any other candidates want to speak, share any good conversations that they've had? And Stephen, I see your hand up. We'll get to you after our candidates.
Okay.
Yeah, I've had, like I said, this has been kind of a wild summer of the floodgates just opening, as our state has taken action, as we start getting, the news from the Supreme Court. Women of all ages seem to want to talk about this more. And the most interesting thing about my district and my race is that I'm running in a primary in which independents are also allowed to vote in our primaries. And that has brought up an entire range of nuanced perspectives on this topic, because independents are actually the fastest growing voter registration in my district. And I had one woman, she was trying to explain how much she personally opposes abortion, and then she couldn't find the words, and she just burst into tears, and she said, but I just don't know how we're going to care for all of these babies. And she said, I just want us, and I think by her she meant those who oppose abortion, I just want us to value life, all of it. And this was not a week after multiple shootings, both on our state and in a neighboring state. And she said, I just don't know how I can oppose someone's right to make that choice for themselves, but then know that that child may not be able to go to school safely, to know that that child might not be able to eat, to know that that child might end up in a foster system that has really struggled in our state to care for the children that it needs to care for. And so by recognizing that it was a full conversation, and by telling her that I cared about that too, that even though I was very much pro-choice and I cared about someone's ability to make that decision for themselves, that I did care about those children. I did care about the children in the foster system, and about kids going to a well-funded public school system safely without feeling like they're walking into, a militarized zone. And I think that by having those conversations and recognizing that, we can be nuanced, and that it's okay to have personally held feelings that you just don't want to put on someone else, is a way that we can bridge some of that. And by using that really humanizing language, I found that the best conversations that I've been able to have with people who maybe don't align with me perfectly on abortion is by staying as far away from the political language as possible.
Yeah.
You know, and trying, you know, if there's a word that I want to use that's been ingrained in me because I've been a Democrat my whole life, I'm going to work really hard to find another way to convey that value in a way that doesn't potentially bring up the negative emotion. And that has really gone a long way in our state that has straight party voting and semi-closed primaries, to really show people who are so used to just checking a box at the top of the ballot or not really being felt or heard from both parties, that they have people who are listening, and that we're listening because they're people and not because I'm being political.
Exactly. Yeah. So many people are not political, right? So, and amongst Democrats, we love to talk our issues. We love to talk about policy, or amongst, you know, political Democrats. We love to do that, but you know, that makes people not listen, right? If they don't like politics, they're just going to tune that out. So again, not talking in terms of issues, not talking about terms of policy. And if that's something, you know, if that is how you're most comfortable talking about it, yeah, doing that work that you did, Kate, where you're digging down beyond that to try and find that the value underneath that they can actually then understand. So that does take some work to take that time to figure out, why do I really care? What is that? And how can I articulate that? How can I put a word on that in a way that other person will understand? Great. Anybody else want to share some good conversations that they've had, effective conversations? Oh, we've just gone over. So if anybody needs to drop off, I want to be respectful of people's time. So so yeah, I'm sorry for us going a little over time, but yeah, any last comments on conversations?
Take up time and space.
Yes. So speak, right? Speak. Yep. So don't be afraid to speak, and then also ask questions and find out where that person is at as well. Okay, go ahead, Stephen. You've had your hand up, so go ahead and share with us any good conversations that you've had with people.
I'm afraid I cannot really share any good conversations I had with people because I've never really known of people that much. However, I grew up in a family where my father, 4 out of 6 of my sisters are like very anti-abortion and homophobic. I was a foster child in 2 different homes. I've been on disability and mental health consumer for about the past 12 years. I'm a gay male that came out in the 1980s. No, I don't even know how I got the courage, but I did it. And I'm just really appalled and just really infuriated by these conservatives that want to tell everybody what they think life is about and what we're supposed to be doing with our bodies and our lives. And they really don't give a damn about life. They care really more about death because they want all these babies to fight their wars, basically. And I think that because the conservatives are really arguing a religious narrative and religious ideology, really, I think it's that the Roe versus Wade fight has to include at least some Jewish rabbis and Christian ministers and priests at rallies and so forth, and talking and writing letters and emails to politicians stating their beliefs that abortion should be acceptable at least up to the end of the first trimester in all cases, and of course some cases after that basically we maintain Roe versus Wade.
Yeah, that's a good point about finding religious leaders, especially in your community, to join in. We call it Unite for Roe, right? So to find them to join in. Actually, that Pew Research poll that I was showing is actually a poll on religion. And it actually showed that, like, I'm in northern Indiana, I'm in South Bend, so very Catholic here. So I was looking at the Catholic numbers, and it's just like the percentage that was pro-choice or pro-life amongst Catholics is no different than the overall population of the US. So their being Catholic really had no bearing percentage-wise on whether or not they support. And actually, in South Bend, we have an abortion clinic here in South Bend that is run by people in the Catholic Church. So it's again, by telling these stories, breaking down those assumptions, getting more people to share those stories. That's how we're going to break through to more people.
This is what I think has to be done, is we have to include like religious clergymen and rabbis in the discussion this year through election day. And we have to make our voice at least as loud as the anti-abortionists, at least as loud as that.
Yeah, and it should be easier because there's a heck of a lot of us. Right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So we should be able to do that. So to wrap up here, we want to talk about being able, us coming together, so joining in to unite and fight, bring others along with you, to unite and fight along with you. So, find that local group or a campaign that you can join, share those resources. We have a resources a PDF out there. If you find other places, you can send it on to us. We're going to put this out on the website along with this video to help people find those resources. So quick little recap. Hopefully you feel more empowered now to be able to go out and talk about abortion and your abortion rights. You kind of understand a little more about that state of the abortion rights in various states. You know how to start to organize, do that hard work of organizing the people and are ready to get out there and unite and fight. So there's a couple ways that you can jump right into the action right now. One, if you're looking for those pro-choice candidates, we got 4 right here, so who definitely can use your help. So with Building Bridges, there are ways that you can help out those candidates. One way that just about anybody can do is we write postcards for our candidates. So if you aren't in one of those states, you can still help them out. And postcards is a great way to do that, to make that personal connection, right? Handwritten personal connection out to the voters. So you can go to Building Bridges for America at our Days of Action, and you can get addresses to help out. Also, we mentioned that Civics for Everyone is tomorrow. That's a great way. And then I also want to leave it up for our candidates. Recruit us. Tell us how can we help you out, to grow your campaign so you can win in your upcoming election.
So we are doing postcards just like this. We are also doing phone banking that can be done from wherever you are. And if you are in Oklahoma, please feel free, reach out to me anytime. And I'm also happy to work with anyone to help engage and recruit anyone running for local office. That is something that I would love to be able to give back to anyone who's been interested in getting involved in campaigns. I'd love to give them some knowledge back to take back to their communities.
Exactly. That's great. Thank you for being willing to reach back. That is a big thing, is getting people to run and then giving them that knowledge so they can get a bit of a running start on how to run. All right. Next. Let's go. Natalie, go ahead.
Okay, very similarly, always phone banking is something that can be done from afar, letter writing, things like that. But we've been looking for specific roles even on the campaign management team, and many of those can be done from afar. Help with graphic design, help with, different data entry and things like that. We've got some local interns. The bench in Idaho is very, very thin. So I actually just hired an out-of-state manager. And definitely I would say reach out to any candidates, of course, in your own area. But if you don't have someone in your district or in your state, watch, organizations like Building Bridges and look for those candidates and reach out, because there's all kinds of work that can be done. Social media management, somebody to help just read posts and make sure there aren't typos before they go out. I mean, there's all kinds of ways to help from afar that really do make a big difference for us candidates who are trying to do 5 million things and get over the finish line. So,
yeah. Yep, lots of ways to directly help and directly have an impact. I see that Sheena's phone, it looks like she dropped off. But she was saying that her phone was about to die, and it looks like it did. So I encourage you to go to on Building Bridges. You can find out connections for Sheena. And then Jess, do you want to bring us home?
Of course. You can help me by writing postcards. You can help me by sharing posts. You can find me on social media on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, my favorite TikTok. And that a lot of people, and obviously you can donate money, but a lot of folks, without spending any money, the easiest way is to promote a Democrat in your area. And that's to share posts, to share our name, to talk to people, that sort of thing. So any of those things are greatly appreciated. And I appreciate you guys for hosting this forum tonight.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks, everyone.